Yo, what's good, guys? We're back at it again with another MLB The Show 25 video for you guys, and you can see it right there. We are doing our top 50 video, combining all of our tier lists. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This should give you a pretty good idea of just who the best players in the game are. And if it does, I would urge you to like and subscribe, as we are on the way to 10K and would love to have you here. So first card, Aaron Judge. Haven't rehearsed this at all, just off gut feeling. We will adjust as we go, I suppose. But Aaron Judge, one of the best righty bats in the game. One of the few guys where if you just hit a perfect 90% of the time, it's going, because he just has absurd power, especially on days which he plays up, which is going to be a lot, being the AL MVP and whatnot. So, let's see. Beltre, I think gut reactions top 30. He might could get to top 20, but I think in that like 21 to like 30 range is probably where he should be. New Bregman, I think I view him as pretty similar to Beltre. Beltre definitely has the better overall stats. I think Bregman has a better swing, has some really good quirks. So I think they're in the same boat, more or less. Jordan, probably top 20. It's hard to rank just a pure DH that high, especially when there's actually left-handed hitters that I like more than him. But for right now, I'm going to put him right there. Walker Jenkins, definitely going to be more towards the bottom. We're going to have 5 honorable mentions because you can't delete people off a tier list on Showzone for whatever reason. Or at least not right now, you can't. So I think Sammy Sosa was one I'd plan on putting there. Jurickson Profar, I think I'm going to put there because I just haven't used him personally. Looks like a really good budget card. Is he a top 50 player? Don't know about all that. Who else was honorable mention? We'll see as we go. So Vlad Jr., I feel like he's in that 30 range where he's not really messing with the top end first baseman, but he is still a very good alternative. New Tyler O'Neill, probably top 40. Absolutely, if you're facing a lefty, he's probably the best guy in the game. Facing righties, the contact is really low. I don't think his clutch is insanely nice, but it is a brand new card, so I do have to familiarize myself with it a little bit. So you can see, not the craziest quirks in the world. Usually has a pretty good swing. You're looking at 66 clutch, 58 contact. So all-star, or just as like a pinch hitter without runners on second, with an asterisk, I suppose, on pinch hitter. He's really good. And then when you take righties into account and you're not on like all-star, and the fact he's not the greatest fielder in the world, I would rather use him than Walker Jenkins. But that's about as far as I can extend the line, probably. Trey Turner, top 40, just doesn't really have the power, doesn't have the fielding, but his swing is still really good, and he's going to play really good. Ted Simmons, top 30, I want to say. Still probably the best catcher, even with Veritek. But it's not huge, and objectively, he's not the best card in the world. Like, until you get on the Hall of Fame, Kyle Higashioka, the new one, will probably play better than this card, and that's just kind of how it plays at lower ranks. Shohei, I suppose this is more as a pitcher. If you want to DH him, he's okay. He is pretty bad against lefties, but he has some good quirks, and I think his swing might even be a little bit better. So just as a DH, I think he's definitely way worse than Jordan, but you can definitely still use him there. Seiya, I'm just kind of defaulting to this top 40 range, which isn't a bad spot to be for a free card that isn't even like the premier card in his program path. He's a really good card. He's got great contact, good clutch, decent enough power, and pretty good fielding. So he's just one of the better all-around cards right now, and it shows because he doesn't really excel at any one thing, which does kind of hold him back. Samuel Basallo, however you say it. I don't think he's like Ted Simmons level. If you just are cool with the lefty, but even then, he doesn't hit righties that great. His contact's not super great, so he's not going to age well. He's not going to do amazing like Hall of Fame and legend. Roman Anthony, a card that I've really been enjoying, but objectively, I don't feel like he's that crazy because I think his clutch is pretty is on the lower side, if I'm not too mistaken here. No quirks, 83 clutch. So really good contact left, decent enough contact right, and then the clutch is lower than both of his contacts. And he doesn't play the craziest center field, but I think he's a really good card. I think he's got a really underrated swing. So I'll put him like top of this tier, but in general, I don't think he's anything crazy. Clemens, top 20. I don't feel like he's that dominant of a pitcher to justify a top 10 spot. He's not Randy Johnson. He's not John Donaldson. He is miles ahead of every other pitcher. And if you are pitching Clemens, you just feel like it puts you in a spot where you are going to win the game more times than not, which is how I kind of value pitchers in these top 50 tier lists. If I start him, do I have like a way better chance of winning than my opponent? I think he does give you that, but to a lesser degree than like what John and Randy in the past have. Paul O'Neill, this is a tricky one for me because a lot of people really enjoyed him last year. I didn't use him a ton last year, and I haven't used him this year because I'm doing the NL first. So I haven't got the privilege of using him. 87, 109, very good clutch. The power's just pretty low. The fielding isn't terrible. He's not the slowest card in the world. Overall, not a bad card at all. No breaking ball, which you'd kind of prefer to see, but dead red will help his power situation quite a bit. I think maybe top 20. It just depends on how many lefties you want. I'd probably rather have Jordan's bat, but I could definitely see Paul O'Neill getting bumped up. Noah Schultz, worth mentioning. I think he's just like top 50, though. I don't think he's anything crazy. I think he's the best of the rest, so I included him, but I don't think he's anything insane. Mookie, I think top 30 is good for him. Last year, you'd be looking at a top 10 card. This year, I feel like his swing's a little worse. I feel like the power is not really there. And also, again, probably not a card you want to hold because if he does play and he's lost a ridiculous amount of weight, he's probably not going to have a lot of fun on the field. Hopefully, he just gets his health right and can gear up for maybe like the second half of the season or something. Not super sure what's going on with this situation. Trout, top 10. The quirks aren't there. The stats aren't even really there. But at the end of the day, it's Mike Trout. He still has one of, if not the best righty swing in the game, which will carry him. But do know that he is towards the bottom of this top 10. He is more like a top 20 card. And for some people, he probably will hit like a top 20 card. Napoli, top 40. If you just want a power bat catcher, he is probably still the best guy for that. You got Gary Sanchez now. You have Kyle Higashioka now. So there's alternatives, but as long as you just want a power bat up until like late Hall of Fame, he's probably going to be your best option, even with the low clutch. Mickey Mantle, I almost want to throw him in honorable mentions. I feel like he's not the craziest card in the world. I'll probably put him top 50. Just, like mid 80s speed, mid 80s fielding, mid 80s against righties, and then it just really poor against lefties. I don't think is somebody that I want to be playing right now. But he is here. He is still a switch hitter. He still has a nice enough swing with some decent quirks. He doesn't have like all the quirks he had last year, but he is still pretty solid. Max Clark, top 50, very bottom of top 50. He's like a pure defensive center fielder, gets to absolutely everything, but you pretty much expect him to not do a lot at the plate, which is not necessarily a top 50 card. If we didn't have power creep, that would not be a top 50 center fielder. That'd basically be like running Kevin Kiermaier out there. And then Mark McGwire is definitely a top 30 card because I view him as similar to Vlad. If you want a better swing with slightly better contact, you probably go Vlad. If you want way more power, you go with McGwire. I think that's that tier done. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's 8. Let's see. Marcelo Mayer, pretty solid card. I want to put him top 30. I'm trying to think of what his comp would be at shortstop. And I think maybe top 30 is right for him. We'll see. Manny, definitely top 20, maybe top 10. A lot of people have absolutely loved this Manny card. I think we'll get a better idea when I just go ahead and bring Beltran down, bring Gil Hodges down, because they are by far some of the best hitters in the game right now. So that gives gives us kind of a better idea of what that top 10 is going to start to look like. Leo DeVry, I think I view him as similar as Marcelo. Marcelo probably has the better overall stats, but Leo is quite a bit faster. He's probably going to be the better fielder, and he's a switch hitter. So there's a lot to like about Marcelo, but there's also a ton to like about Leo, to where I'd probably consider him as well. Lance Berkman, this is a tough one. His stats aren't crazy, but he is a switch hitting first baseman, so I think he probably maybe should be in this territory with like Vlad and Mark as like the 2A, 2B first baseman if you don't have like Gil Hodges or somebody we'll get to right now, actually, in this Diamond Santander, which is an absolute ton to get right now, but you're looking at one of the better hitters in the game, one of the best swings in the game, and he's a switch hitter. So he's an absolute stud there. I think he's better than Judge. I think he's worse than Gil Hodges, just because of Gil Hodges having insane quirks and just overall just beating him in all stats. But Santander is going to be crazy. You can DH him. You can play him at first. You can put him in the outfield because this one's slightly better defensively. So he's got a ton of versatility. You don't have to look at him just as a first baseman. Kyle Tucker. Just not a card I've used a lot. He's here because I know a lot of people absolutely mash with him. A lot of really good players still use him. And he has really high clutch. So he's almost like a poor man's Jordan in a way. So he's worth a shout for that reason. If he has a season anywhere close to what he had last year, he will not stay 86 for long either. Christian Campbell. Maybe top 40. I think he's probably better than both of these. So I think they get moved down. He gets moved up. Ted Simmons probably gets moved down just because he's just not the craziest. Being a switch hitter with some okay quirks at catcher is decent, and that gives us a little more room to work with. So Ohtani probably gets booted out. O'Neal probably gets booted out because he's more of like an all-star demon type card. And then we move. Ketel Marte, like him more than Trout, like him more than Judge. Santander, this is where you get sticky. I think they both have pretty comparable swings. I think I maybe like Marte swing a little more. On days Marte's playing up, he's probably better. I think he brings better positional value. Although Santander is a switch hitting first baseman, so that's pretty good value right there. But Marte is playing second base, which is a pretty weak spot right now. So I think they're very close. I think if you have one over the other, can't really argue with it. Junior Caminero, I used him a little bit. Did finally get him. I think his swing's just kind of all right. Like, he has a high leg kick, but it's not a high and early leg kick. Kind of when the leg kick goes up is when you're supposed to be swinging, which is not usually my favorite swing in the world. Juan Godo, top 10. This is who I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about there's lefties I like more than Jordan. He is him. He is the best hitter I've personally used in the game. Everything he touches gets absolutely demolished. He is a stud. J-Ram, top 20, I think. I think he makes some distance on like Beltre for best third baseman. I think he's competing with a guy like Chase Headley, who we haven't got to quite yet. Jason Varitek, wherever Simmons is, he should be just very close to Simmons. Simmons is probably slightly better than Varitek. It depends on his swing. I haven't really used Varitek yet. But they are very similar cards. One is obviously higher overall, so he is slightly better. But it really just depends on Varitek's swing. Kipnis. I don't think he's great value, but objectively can't really argue with the card. I mean, I have Ketel over him. I'd probably, if J-Ram doesn't have second base secondary, I'd probably play J-Ram out of position at second over him. So there's a lot of people I like more than him, but objectively just can't be that low on the card. Jake Berger, super good all-star option. And even then, I think he has some pretty okay contact against one side. It's really just about his clutch. You can see breaking ball, so a decent quirk on him. 61, 80, 95, 91, 96. So really a sleeper card here. Always has a pretty nice swing. I think he's better than Caminero for sure. Caminero, very good against lefties. So's Berger. I think I'd rather have Berger swing and the high clutch. And just end of conversation right there. Cameron Henry Aaron. Honestly, I want to put him in honorable mention because I just didn't get along with him well. If we have a spot, then I'll move him up. But I think I'd rather use everybody on the tier list I've ranked over him. So I can't really put him in there. Glaybot, maybe top 20. I think top 30 is better. I think him and Mookie are pretty comparable, where like Mookie has like higher clutch and some nice live series quirks, whereas Glaber just kind of has better power. So it really depends on what you want out of them. That is our top 30 tier completed, so we'll have to move guys accordingly here. I think Lindor is similar to Mookie too, where like the stats across the board are worse. I'm viewing Lindor as more like playing him out of position at second base, although you could actually play him at shortstop. I would not play Mookie at shortstop. So really, I'm looking at those two and comparing. I mean, Mookie's like better in every stat, but Lindor is a switch hitter and is going to be better defensively. So I think they're pretty similar there. I think that kicks somebody out of this tier. For me personally, it's probably Beltre. I'm sure somebody watching will just love that Beltre card and take offense to that. But he is not my favorite card in the world. Tatis, definitely not a top 10 card. Probably not top 20. He's probably more in this top 30 range. But also none of these guys I really want to put up. So we'll probably put him here with Acuna. I view them as very similar cards. Tatis probably has the worst overall stats. He's a better fielder, but he's probably the worst overall card. Whereas Acuna probably has a slightly better swing, but doesn't have quirks. So they each kind of have one thing over the other, and you just kind of have to pick and choose, but they are very similar cards in my opinion. Dylan Cruz, I think wherever Max Clark is, he has to be there. He is like 90% of the hitter that Max Clark, or the fielder that Max Clark is, and he's like 10% better of a hitter. So he just kind of gives you more or less the best of both worlds. He's one of the more well-rounded center fielders in the game right now. So depending on how much weight you put in that, you could move him up, but I'm still viewing him as like a defensive center fielder that doesn't hit super great. And that's just kind of how I look at him. Darren O'Day. Honestly, I would be perfectly fine with just throwing him in honorable mentions because, yeah, he is probably one of the better relievers, but he's just not that great. It's a gimmick pitcher. The hits are good. The home runs are good. So on high difficulties where you can like run away pitches from people and just shrink their PCIs to the size of a pea, he's probably really good. But on like All-Star, on Hall of Fame, don't think he's the craziest card in the world. Grandy Goat, really good swing, but he's like an all-star demon card where he's like 65, 70 contact. Maybe that gets him top 50. We're going to have to really like bump some guys up. I'm kind of still thinking in terms of last year where you got to be like a world beater to be in these two tiers where I feel like there's just not that many cards. Seager, I think is probably top 10, has a really good swing, and almost has some like hidden secondaries where you can play him at second base, you can play him at third base, and it won't be nearly as bad as you playing him at shortstop. You can see he's up 4 stars right now, so if he's playing up, I think you almost have to play him. It feels like an automatic home run against righties, so he feels kind of like Jordan in that respect. And then he also has like 110 clutch after you put some parallels on him, so it kind of offsets how mediocre he is against lefties. Very reminiscent of like last year. Santander, honorable mention, because I don't want to rank him twice on the same list. If I did actually rank him, he'd probably be like top 40, somewhere around there. It just doesn't have the stats to play up to high difficulty. But that's why there's an 89 now. The Bambino, probably a top 20 card, just always has a really good swing. Super usable even later on. Bobby Witt, I think, is like a top 30 card, so somebody's going to have to get pushed up out of here. Because I don't necessarily think he's top 20. He just doesn't have the power. He's objectively a pretty good fielder, He is probably the best base runner in the game. Unfortunately, those are two things that just aren't super valuable. I'd rather have a guy where when I hit a perfect with him, it's not a fly out halfway to the outfield. Cody Bellinger, new card. I think maybe he's a top 20 card. Always has one of the better swings in the game. And like as much people are running like Max Clark and Dylan Cruz, just these defensive center fielders, I feel like Bellinger is just better than both of them. Not defensively, obviously, but just hitting wise, I feel like he's way better than both of them. To where if you are just running defensive center fielders, I'd at least look at Bellinger. Headley, probably top 10, the best third baseman in the game right now. If J Ram's playing up, maybe he has a little bit of an argument, but I think Headley just wins that. Kobe Mayo, I view him and Berger as pretty similar cards, so we'll have to readjust here. And then Harper, not extremely high on. I think he's more in like this McGuire Vlad tier of if you just want a lefty first baseman. I mean, his clutch is probably better than both of them because they've been giving him ridiculous clutch the last few years. You can see breaking ball, no dead red, does have first pitch, 87, 82, 99, 73, 83. So a pretty well-rounded card. But you can say the same about McGuire and Vlad, to where I don't feel like Harper just default wins out of them. So we're going to have to rank within some tiers here because we need to get this down to 4 people in the bottom line of each. So we need to elevate somebody to top 10 status. I think the easy cop out there is just to put Roger Clemens up because he is the best pitcher in the game. So having him at 10, I don't think is the end of the world. And then we got to bring 2 guys up here. I think Mookie's really good. Every top player I've seen use Mookie hits really well with him. So I'll bring him up, even though my personal experience with him hasn't been anything crazy. And I think Paul O'Neill just, the power isn't really there, but if you're on Hall of Fame, I think he's worth a shout just for having some of the more complete stats. Has a very nice swing and has some very nice quirks that should help kind of overcome him not having the craziest power. And then this tier is full. And I think I'm pretty happy with who is in it. Again, this is Veritek, this outline. Don't know why they're doing that. And then we can bring 1 down, and then we got to kick some people out as well. So, I think Basalo gets kicked out because why is he in a tier with Ted Simmons, Veritek, and Napoli? I view him as firmly out of that conversation for like best catcher. Granderson, all-star card, so I'll bring him down. And that will make room for Seiya, who's like jack of all trades, master of none, not really where you want to be. And then that will complete our top 50. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this kind of helps you construct your lineups better, kind of decide who you're benching, who you're cutting out of your teams. Hopefully the tier list works. I saw a comment that didn't yesterday. I don't run it. I don't run it. So that's all I can say in response to that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Till next time.